My name's Mark Nichols.
And where are we, Mark?
We're at Waihui, which is just out of Dargaville.
And what do you farm?
We do dairy and a bit of beef as well on their hills.
Yep. And Tony, how did you come across Mark?
Then Brendan, our local store manager, sort of said, look, Mark used to be with us, he was a good client, had no idea why he'd sort of moved away, and just asked me, sort of didn't ask me, told me that I'd better get hold of him. So so I got hold of Mark and just basically just asked him questions about his farming system, what he wanted to achieve, where he was at, and Mark had provided us some of his existing, what was it, Ravensdown or balanced soil tests?
Balanced soil tests.
Balanced soil tests, which we obviously had a look at. I think the first priority was obviously looking at getting the pH up from some what was the ranges again from the lowest?
5.7 I think we were. No, 5.6 was our lowest.
As well as then applying maintenance fertiliser for the whole farm, and then obviously looking where we needed to go with our targets, and as the budget would allow, applying capital in. And let's face it, in the last 3 years, Mark, we've obviously had pretty challenging payouts.
Certainly have, yes. Yeah. Cash flows have been tight.
So what did we start? We put on about 600 tonnes of lime, wasn't it, to start?
Yeah, we did. We put on 600 tonne of lime in January, February. And then we've put on a maintenance of reverted super.
We had elemental sulphur, didn't we, and some MOP in different parts.
Selenium. Selenium's a big thing for me. I really do believe in selenium.
But probably, and then at that stage there, we also introduced EM, which, EMNZ. Discussed it with Mark, and tell us, Mark, sort of where you applied it and what did you see? You've been farming here, 20 years now, roughly?
Oh, we've had this farm for, I think, 14 years, I think, we've had this block. Yep, and I've lived down the road. I've been dairy farming for 25 years in the Waihui area. So Tony came and we talked about nitrogen, and he suggested we try synergy with EM. And so what we did, we went and did 4 paddocks, I think, in separate areas. And then Tony came back about a month later, and we dug in the paddocks that would have been done and the neighbouring paddocks, and the contrast between the difference. Visually there was quite a contrast, but underground was probably the biggest contrast to me, and it certainly opened my eyes, the difference in the root depth. And so after that I basically decided that there was no point in doing too much more experimenting at that time of the year. We just went through and did almost all the dairy farm heading into the summer. And heading into the summer, it was really quite noticeable how much longer the grass hung on. And I put that down to the root depth, chasing that moisture. And then coming out of the drought was the same. We came out of the drought, the plant seemed to be ready to bounce back just a little bit quicker than what I expected, that's for certain.
Great. And you were telling me about a story about frosting. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Well, we put some EM on our lowest lying flats. I think it was probably 2 weeks ago now, and then we had a frost. Oh, it might have been nearly 3 weeks ago. We had a frost about 10 days after I'd applied it, and I was milking the cows and looked out over the flats, and the flats that had the EM on hadn't frosted, and yet the higher land where the cow shed was had frosted, and the paddocks right next door to the paddocks that hadn't been treated with EM had frosted. So obviously something, it wasn't a coincidence, because it was very, very starkly obvious that it was those paddocks that that didn't frost.
That's very interesting. I mean, with the microbial activity, you obviously increasing the soil temperature obviously has benefits. Tell us, Mark, with the soil aggregation, when we first dug and we looked at the soil prior to applying EM and worm counts, visually, sort of some of the farms that we've dug over the course of this period, tell us what you've witnessed.
Oh yes, well certainly the first time we dug without the EM, we struggled to find any sign of worm life, and the soil was really tight. And as we've applied the EM, I have really noticed from digging the difference in the profile of the soil and how it breaks down the aggregation of the soil. And I guess I've started to become a lot more interested in what's underneath the ground, and what a big effect it does have on what we're doing.
And speaking of that, how have you witnessed production in the vat? Visually, your growth rates, and you were going to tell us about the maize as well. So could you just elaborate on that, please?
Okay, well, going back to the maize paddock, we've had some paddocks that we grew maize in. I think it was probably 6 or 7 years ago now, and the pastures never really performed at all. They've been the most disappointing paddocks on the farm ever since we did the maize, and and I would have happily regrassed them if I was heading back to doing a major regrassing program. But last year we started putting the EM on. We saw quite a difference initially, but this year especially we're really seeing quite a change in those paddocks, and they're now performing as well as any other paddocks on the farm. And the only thing we have done differently is putting on our new fertiliser program, I guess, with EM, and yeah, we're really pleased with it. As far as production wise goes, well, we changed from twice a day milking to once a day milking 3 seasons ago, and last season, if it wasn't for the fact that we had to dry off early for me to have an operation, we would have done our twice a day production in our second season of once a day. So I guess
Was it the same numbers? Had you increased your
No, we actually culled some cows, and we actually milked less cows and just milked the better cows.
Look, thanks very much. I'm sure there's a lot more. I mean, geez, we've sat and spoken for hours, but in this little quick chat, we really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.